So what is permaculture? Now that is a question that obviously you've asked before, otherwise you wouldn't be on this video. And I'm going to use the simplest language I know and the easiest terms and easiest examples that I know to show you today. This is something that I wished somebody would have showed me 20 years ago. I could have started sooner. I would have not be as intimidated by it, and I would have gotten a lot further. Now, many years ago, they asked Bill Mollison, how do you explain permaculture to a toddler? And he said, creating a nice place to live. Now, that has been my motto for the last 2 years, creating a nice place to live. Now, we live in a world that is already a permaculture, a place where you can go and hunt and gather. You can go and hunt for meat, and you can gather fruit and veg and berries and things from nature. But it is not tuned to our needs. So in order to tune it to our needs, we use permaculture, the design system, to take certain elements, just a nice fancy term, just a thing, and see how we can make it more effective. And those are the things that we're going to explain today. I'm going to show you how do you take this thing, make it more effective, put this thing close to it, and make it work in a symbiotic relationship. Take 20 things and 30 things and 50 things, make it into a nice symbiotic relationship so they can work with one another. And that is the idea behind permaculture, is to take certain elements, certain things, and to make it more effective to nurture people and to nurture the earth. Here we have some ducks. Now if you look at duck as an element or a thing, you have to say to yourself, what does it need and what does it give you? Now ducks need some sort of protection, it needs a nice place to live, it needs water, it needs... Then the magic happens. Then you can ask yourself, what does ducks give you back? Now the ducks are over there. That is basically where they get their protection and water and food. That thing is open so they can come out into the food forest. And then let's look at what they give us. So we have mulch around the trees. Mulch is another thing that you can implement in your life. But because we have mulch in our system, we also have termites. And one of the good things about ducks is they eat termites. So they take something that we get from nature for free, a termite, and they turn that into meat and eggs. And the first harvest that you get from any living animal is manure. And so they turn the termites that we have in abundance here, they turn that into meat, eggs and manure. And because they like to swim, they manure into this pond here. Now this pond leaks. It was sort of a design luck, but because it leaks and because they manure in it, they fertilize that tree for us completely for free. Now let's have a look at the tree as an element and see what does it need. It needs water, it needs sun, it needs wind, and it needs manure. Now the sun and the wind we get for free from the sky. The water, I'll show you some water harvesting systems. And then how do we make it more effective? So we get manure from the ducks, we plant it, we get shade from it for free. And then if we want to make it more effective, like this tree that wasn't planted by us, that was given to us, we can use it to, we can use the shade to protect our homes, to protect other plants. We can use it to grow things up against. We can use it as construction equipment. We can use it as for the fruit that it gives us. Every tree and every element has got different properties. So if you study them and you look at them and you notice them, then you realize, okay, it's got, this is what it needs, and this is the threads that's got it. This animal eats it, and this is the harvest that I can get from it. And the more you understand the different elements or the different things, the deeper you understand them, the more you are able to put them close to other things that they need, and the more you are able to harvest from them what you need. And in return, while doing this, you are also protecting and nurturing the earth. We have a couple of different systems in play, a couple of different elements. I quickly want to run you through it. So this is some manure and some charcoal that we placed in a half moon berm. This is a hole that gathers water. That in turns my compost in there. It turns that into fertility. That in turn then harvests or protects this little tree, feeds this little tree here. So let's have a look at what this tree needs. It needs water, it needs fertility. Water it gets from there, fertility it gets from the ducks and from some mulch that we place around it. And then what does it give us? So this is a specific one, is a mulberry. It's going to give us some food, it's going to give the animals some food, and then it's going to give some shade. In that shade we would be able to plant some ground covers. We'll be able to plant some ground covers in fact right now. Living ground covers that can also give us a harvest. We can put things that goes up against it, and we can harvest the wood later on for other things as well. Now let's look at the mulch that Lucas is placing around it. Now mulch is basically anything that you put around a plant. You get dead mulch, the ones that we have here. That is some straw or some spent bedding there, and then some sticks. Now as a design element, what it's giving us, it doesn't need a lot of things. It just needs to be placed at the right place. It needs to be close to trees, it needs to be watered, to be used, or to be, how do you say, the most effective. If mulch is still hanging in a tree, or if mulch is placed on the wrong ground, if mulch isn't watered, then it's not going to its full effect. So what does it give us? Mulch in our system protects the soil, cools down the soil dramatically, and then it also gives us loads of nutrients for the plant. It breaks down over time, and then our climate it is also going to grow some termites below it. Those termites then in exchange feeds the ducks, and those ducks then gives us some eggs and meat. You can see we are basically in the driest time, coming out of a drought now, or hopefully we will be expecting some rain soon. Well, keep that in mind. I want to show you just another place of our plot. Let's have a look at a couple of elements here. So we've got a horse, we've got some rocks, we've got a fireplace, there is a tire, there's some sticks that we are moving towards the food forest at the moment, and then there's a swimming pool for the kids. There's Lucas, a climbing frame, and then tree and the treehouse. Now let's have a look at the treehouse, for instance. Now treehouse is half built as well, but as you can see, one of the fruits that it's delivering to us is there's a space on top where the children can lie down in the sun after they've swum, and then there's some shade for the adults to stay there. There's a tree, it gives us stability for the treehouse, gives us a place to climb up. Let's look at a horse as an element. A horse, what does a horse need? A horse needs some grass. This is for instance one of the horses that we just rescued, that's why it looks like that. Horse needs grass, horse needs water, horse needs a place to run, and a horse needs companionship. What is the fruits of a horse? A horse you can ride a horse. A horse has got hooves, it disturbs the soil. A horse gives you manure. For me that's very important because I farm worms with that. A horse can eat grass, so it can disturb soil in a certain way. How can we make that more important or more productive? Well, we can use the horses to work, because you can ride a horse, you can plow with a horse, you can pull a cart with a horse, you can move things with a horse. You can use a horse's ability to step on things and to eat things, to massage the earth and to get it more fertile. And as I'm mentioning these things, it's not like we are doing all of that, but it's a way to think about it and to change your mind into how do you change a certain element of certain thing to be more productive around other elements. So the horse manure, how can you make that more productive? You can give it to pigs, you can give it to chickens to scratch, you can farm flies in it, you can farm worms in it, which we do. You can use it as in your compost heap to create compost, to then return fertility to your land. Those are the things of a horse. Let's look at these rocks as elements. Now, placed in the wrong place where they were in the bush, they were worth nothing to nobody. Placed around a campfire, all of a sudden they become worth a lot. It's a place where the community can gather, it's a place where the children can have fun, it's a place where you can sit around the fire at night. So just moving it 300 meters from where it was naturally to here, placing it in a certain direction or certain way, turns it all of a sudden into a nice place to live. You can stop Lucky. There's Lucky as an element. We'll talk about him a bit later. But let's talk about the swimming pool as an element. Now, what does a swimming pool need? Swimming pool needs water. It needs something to hold it in, obviously. And what is the fruit that it gives you? Okay, so it gives you algae, it gives you fun for the children, and it gives you the wall or the thing that's holding it in. How can you make that more effective? Well, first of all, don't tell the kids to stop playing while you're making a video because they're not going to have as much fun. But the next thing you can do is you can put a slide into it. That makes it more fun for a child. That increases the harvest. You can then use the wall to build something against it, to maybe put some plants up ranking against it. And then you're willing to increase the size and you're willing to increase the system. You can add some fish, you can add some edible plants, and you can use the water that becomes dirty in the natural process to help feed those fish and help feed those plants, and then that becomes an extra harvest. Obviously in that pool right there, we can't put fish in at the moment because the children jumps into it, the fish will die. We can't put plants right in there, but if you put an extra system next to it that cleans the water, it will also produce food if you do it right. If you want to make it less effective, then you go and add a bunch of chemicals to it and make it harsh for the algae to live. It's clean and nice for the kids to swim in, but there's a way. If you turn the elements in the right direction, then it becomes very productive for you, becomes very productive for the earth as well. Next thing I wanted to talk to you about is a house. So this house is not perfect in any way. There's so many things that you can change, and again you would change it by using exactly the same approach. You would say, what does a house need? Now a house needs access to the roads, it needs access to water, it needs access to electricity or some way to generate electricity. It needs to be able to heat itself, cool itself, and somehow. Right, what does a house offer you? Now a house, other than some systems, like a rock for instance, is a element of elements or a system of systems. Now this house gives us a roof. On top of that roof we've got the opportunity to place solar, we've got the opportunity to do some solar heating, we've got the opportunity to do some satellite dish catching like it is there. Our house gives us different sides. Now this house is fronted east on that side and then to the west on that side, exactly for us. And so that means that this house for 90% of the day falls in the shade of its own roof. So it's not getting baked on this side, for instance. Now when the sun is setting, it's getting baked on the western side. So the western side gathers solar energy during the night, solar energy during the afternoon, and that gives us a chance, for instance, to plant things like green peppers, things that doesn't like to get cold at night. It also gives us shade on the eastern side. This is the eastern side. Gives us shade in the afternoon, and it gives us a windbreak for us that's got predominantly western wind. So up until recently, this is where we protected the sheep from the elements at night. This is where they were kept warm during the late winter nights when the western wind will be very cold. The thing a house can do is, because it's got a roof, obviously there's quite a lot of water falling on it. For every milliliter of rain you're receiving every year, there's 1 liter on every square meter of your roof that's falling. So for instance, to improve this, you would put a gutter there and a rain capturing system. At the moment what happens with that rain is it falls down there, goes through that little gate, comes, there's a little swale on that side, brings it up here, sorry, push the camera. Then the rain feeds this system here. Now every tire here has got a tree in there. There's some olive trees there in the back, 2 olive trees, I don't know if you can see them. 2 olive trees there. And then the next thing that a house gives us, grey and black water. Whenever somebody goes to the toilet or the bathroom, that gets captured in there. That then comes through that little pipe, falls into a mulch pit like this, or that one over there, or that one over there. And then those mulch pits makes a wet spot around them. So we turn the grey water or the black water from pit to pit, 3 different ones. That then expands little wet spots, and in those wet spots you can then plant trees. I would not recommend using black or grey water for watering vegetables, but that in turn wets the trees and the trees grows, and then from the tree you can now get some fruit for your house. You can get some shade to cool down the area in general. You know, all the things that you can see in a tree as a system. So using what comes out of the house, turn it into something productive, getting it back into the house, and then repeating the cycle. Another thing that the house does is it gives you some waste, things like bottles and food scraps, and you know, all sorts of waste that you generate from your house. Now bottles you can turn into little planting pots. Food scraps you can feed to the pigs or to the chickens or to the ducks, or you can turn it into compost, and then that turns then into the next thing. So I hope you can by now already see sort of the chains link. You take one element and you connect it to, you turn it into a system, or you turn it into something that then gives you a product. That product turns into something else. You take the products of that product and you keep on keeping on. Now, as I said in the beginning, we already live in a system like that. The world in general, the ecosystem is a system like that. And as I said earlier, I will try to incorporate Lucas and tell you what his job is into something like this. Now, somebody like me or Lucas or whoever, a human, incorporating a human. It is our work then to corrugate, or what's the word? Orchestrate this system. You say, vegetables grow there, swale grow there, little pots come here, let me turn you into this. And you take things from being in an unproductive state and you turn it into a productive state. So in short, that is my take on permaculture in the easiest, simplest terms. I hope that makes sense to you. Subscribe and see how I turn this desert property into a food oasis later on. Have a wonderful day.